Women are working 1 hour 40 minutes for free each day and earning on average £8,500 less than their men in equivalent roles.
Hi guys, I'm back. Did you miss me?
Nowadays, per hour of work, on average, men earn 19.7% more than women do. That gap's been closing over the last few decades, but in the last few years, it started to widen again slightly. The statisticians say it's too early to tell if that's just a blip.
Let's jump into this right away and let's head to my desktop. You can see it's the beautiful morning here in the UK. It's 8:11 a.m. in the morning, and this is something I'm doing on August the 5th on 2016, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit of the curve because in a couple of weeks, maybe a few months, we will start having BBC using their feminist propaganda that women make less money than men. Let's get ahead of the curve. Let's show the world a few months in advance that they're gonna be full of bullshit. And I know exactly how to debunk the entire myth they have about it here in UK. And the claim is that come November, women are working for free. They don't earn as much money as the men do, which is a load of nonsense. And I've actually found out exactly where they get the numbers from. I tried to figure out, is it true? Is it possibly true that there is a wage gap here in UK between men and women and the amount of money they get into the bank account at the end of each month? So the obvious first place we would look at is the Office of National Statistics. For those of you that don't know how to find these things, I'm going to go through the normal way how I managed to find out how this exactly correlates. The 20%, where do they get that number from? I am not any teal deer. I'm not an expert on maths, but let's see what we can dig out here. So earnings and working hours is what you would get if you do the Google search I did there. And you come to a lovely little page and they have tons of information here, and they show among others the, I think this is the amount average earned per week for people here in UK. So it isn't that high. I'm not exactly sure what this means, but they'll let you know when the date was released and when they're gonna get the new number for this. Also, if you go down here, now if you're a big fan of teal deer, all the way down here at the bottom, you will find the methodology related to earnings and working hours. You can dig into exactly how they managed to find out all this. Now, these numbers used here is not a small sample. We're talking hundreds of thousands of data points collected to figure out exactly what is going on. So, under more data here, we have several different selections that we can go in through. I will see if I remember where it was. I believe I went in on this area and got data. So I believe it was Earn01, average weekly earnings. And when you get in here, you should have different data. Nope, that was not the one. I'm being a little bit wonky here. Bear with me, I'm trying to remember exactly where it is. Oh, there we go. All employees, ASHE table 1. And there are a lot more tables than that. And you can find information going all the way back to 1997. Could probably vary a little bit, but I remember checking back in 2012 when BBC Breakfast first spouted out that, oh, women are working for free from November until the end of the year. So let's look in 2015. Obviously, we had 3 years of feminists slamming hard BBC Breakfast and BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, supporting women, gets more women to have more money. Let's download this zip. I've already done this, so I have a folder. Let's drag this folder in here. And the one we want to look at is the total table, 1.9a, paid hours worked, total 2015.xls. And you saw where I got this data from. So you can just download the same. File is called RTF-1, and I've already had a few of these downloaded just to see what's going on. There are more data available throughout all of these to try and figure out exactly where the balance or what's going on here. So when you open up this spreadsheet, you get the guide and results to annual survey of hours and earnings. And they will go through stuff on how they managed to figure this out, where they managed to get everything, how they calculated everything. They even provide certain key metrics so you can figure out what's going on. What we're looking for is the data that we get. And down here you'll have plenty of tabs. So you have the all, you have the male, you have the female, full-time, part-time, male full-time, male part-time, female full-time, female part-time. And we're gonna look at the difference in the worked hours. So paid worked hours for all male employees, and this is not all male employees in the entire UK, they have their certain amounts that whoever they picked. Now, number of thousands, so this is times 1,000, so 12,847 records, brings up the mean or the median number of men working 37.5 hours in this particular case. We're also looking at the female, and almost an exact same amount, and this is among all the females and this is among all the males, and they combine both full-time and part-time. And when you crunch the number, they get the males to have a median of 37.5 or a mean of 37.1, whereas the females have a median of 33.4 or 29.4. So before we do any number crunching, and I think people have already spotted exactly where the number is, let's look at the full-time. So full-time for all employees brings the average in the UK to the 37.5, or some actually work a little bit harder, believe it or not, 39.1 hours per week. And in the part-time, we have an average of almost 20 hours a week. So the UK people are fairly industrious, they work quite hard. So let's go in these bits where it starts to get quite interesting. We have male full-time here now. We have a number of thousands of job points records here, and it's 11,048 times 1,000. And let's look at the female ones. We have 7,237, but the median has already dropped down. So not as many, and as people have pointed out, we have a lot more females in part-time job. If you look at this record here, you have 5,376 times 1,000 working female working part-times, whereas the male record is only 1,799. So there's a significant difference there between how much time or what type of contract people are working at. Well, let's get back to the full-time for males. So if we go in and look at the mean or the medians here, you see 37.5 and 37.1. So this is all that would include the part-time as well, as far as I can understand this table. Let's look at the female ones. On the full-time, the average is 33.4 and the mean brings you down to 29.4. Now, if you look at these two numbers here, 37.1, which is the average hours worked every week by the men in the United Kingdom, and this is the amount of hours worked by women every week in the United Kingdom, and it's paid hours. Remember this, because feminists will be jumping down your throat and saying that women do so much unpaid work. That you should slam down quite hard on, because unpaid work is called voluntary work. Cleaning your house isn't work, it is something you do because you can't stand having a mess. Doing the dishes is because you don't want the dishes to start walking away of their own. You can buy a dishwasher if you don't really want to do the dishes. It's that simple. These are not work things. Taking care of your kid, that's a teamwork. As we know, the feminists will claim that whenever a woman does something, it's unpaid labor, completely forgetting that a man in a household typically is out in the garden, on the driveway, fixing the car, driving the car to the car shop and getting stuff fixed, doing the heavy lifting around the house, painting, anything that is sort of dangerous where you can lose a finger or a digit or whatever. That tends to be the man's work in a household that is completely glossed over in this entire debate between the genders. So we have the men working 37.1 hours and we have females working 29.4 hours. Now you remember that BBC for the past 3, maybe even 4 years have routinely claimed women make 80% or 80 pence for every pound a man makes here in the UK. So what you do is, to figure out the percentage, you take the low number and divide it by the high number. So we have 29.4 and we divide that by the male number, which is 37.1. And boom, there you have your percentage. For those that have difficulty reading that, you do times 100, and that is your percentage. There are other ways to figure out percentage as well. You could press this one, but I've never managed to figure it out. As I said, I'm not a math genius. The actual numbers, almost spot on. This completely eradicates the claim that a female in UK only gets 80p for every pound a man gets. It's just straight down to the amount of hours worked. The average between men and women is almost on the dot, 80%. It's 79.24% of the hours worked on average between men and women. Do I need to say more, really? Here you have at least why there is a difference between how much money men have and how much money women have in the UK. Now, I'm not saying it's the same for every country, and I do believe there might be the tiniest little gap. We're talking a penny because you're not good enough at negotiating your salary. We're talking you lost out a couple of pounds this year in your wallet because you took an extra day holiday. You didn't work the overtime at the office. When it comes down to it in the end of how much money men and women have in their wallets, it's completely down to how much you put in. Women are clearly, shown by this, not interested in working as long hours as the men are. And hey, in all the straight, cis, whatever there is relationships, money tends to be shared between people. If you make more, you pay the bigger part of the house mortgage, the bigger part of the food bill. If you're the one bringing home the bigger portion of the salary and you have a bigger portion of the money to spend, you tend to be the one paying every time you go out for a dinner or to a concert or to whatever it is that you want to do. When you go on a holiday, you usually belong to the ones adding more to the pie so that you can go on holiday, have a nice hotel, have a nice experience. So the money in the end is still being shared. Well, let's look at something here as well. And this is something that scares me quite a lot. So when I look at this and the feminists go on about the unpaid hours women work and how much it is. So the women work, say that this is the standard. Women work 29.4 hours. That's the amount of hours they spend per week at work. Whereas the men spend 37.1. And I did it backwards. But that's 7.7 hours every week that a man spends at work doing paid labor. Let's put that as 50 weeks in a year. 7.7 times 50 is 385 hours. That's how much more time a man spends at work than a woman does it. That's the time a man gives up to be able to bring home money to pay the bill, to pay the electrics, to pay the gas, to all the things that is needed. It's not all men, it's not all women working this. I know women working more than the 37.1. And when you have some data points in this amount, if you look at it, it's 12,847 times 1,000. And on the women, it's 12,613. That's a very, very big pool to get data points from to understand that women, on average, spend 7.7 hours less at work, which becomes 385 hours every year.
Work that's similar in terms of duties or its value to a company deserves the same salary. It comes after Birmingham City Council set aside more than £700 million to compensate female employees like cooks and care workers who didn't get the same bonuses as more male-dominated roles like street cleaners and refuse collectors.
So quite often when we talk about equal pay for equal work, we're not actually talking about the same work, and that has to be taken into consideration when we think about these issues.
Let me know what you think about this, guys. You can follow me at Whiskey the Fox, and I will see you next time.